Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. As usual, as soon as we start this program, you're welcome to pick up the telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socioeconomic issues, any issue trending. And there's a lot of issues trending. From the war in Ukraine and Russia, which affects Caribbean countries and Grenada in terms of the prices of certain goods. You have a war in Israel and Hamas, Palestine, and the Arabs, and that seems not to be abating. Venezuela have its issues with Guyana. We have an oil spill off Tobago that has the possibility to affect Grenada. The United States of America is another big world power that politicos and political pundits in Grenada must pay attention to. It seems as though a fight is brewing between the United States and the United States. And it could have serious implications for the rest of the world. The United States is a world power, the biggest economy in the world, and they are the greatest consumers. They just have about 336 million people, but the United States is a very powerful country. And what happened there concerns us. And here we have our own issues in Grenada, here, that you might want to speak about. So you could give us a call. We must also express our condolences to the family of Winston White. Winston White is one of the politicians that enter in politics in Grenada at a very young age. So you could give us a call. The number to call is 442-0175. We're on RealFM 91.9, YouTube, and Facebook. Pick up the telephone, give us a call, determine what we speak about. Some people advance the view that we're speaking about the same thing all the time. I say to them, you can change the topic. You can introduce new subject matter if you want. But we spend time on issues that is trending. It's a good thing to talk about youth. Sometimes I believe we put too much emphasis on drawing a line of demarcation between youth and the elderly and the rest. Yes, caller, welcome.
Afternoon, Mr. Pierre. I trust you would have had a good weekend. God bless you.
Thank you.
I too want to add my voice to those who extend condolences to the White family. One of our longest-serving politicians of yesteryear. And to that I say, be strong. God is good. And I just want to remind us as parents, well-wishers, that today St. Andrew's Primary School sports, all of the primary schools would be at Progress Park. And let us be mindful that as parents, we have a responsibility to look out for our children, to support them. And support would also mean ensuring that they get home in the soonest time after sports safe. And we should take the time off to go and spend quality time with them. This is also a day of education out of the classroom and in the playing field. And so many times we believe that it's okay to just let them go. But remember, it is our responsibility after sports to ensure their safety. And I just also want to appeal to the busmen to remember that the children, have to get home, and you have a duty to provide transportation. They have to pay their transport, but sometimes the children come out of the park late and there are no buses. So please remember that it is part of our duty, public transport, to help them to get to their destination on time. And those of us who are looking to pray on their innocence, just remember that their future is ahead of them. And if we have a bright future for our children, it means that we would have a bright Grenada. Thank you, Mr. Pierre. I just want to big up St. Mary's RC, my alma mater. Paraclete government, may the best team win. Go there and do your best. At the end of the day, sports win. Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Have a great day.
Yes, scholar, people like sports. People have a passion in Grenada for sports. And perhaps we should spend a lot of time encouraging parents to help to bring out the best in their children for sports. Not only on sports day. Parents are very passionate and they spend a lot of money in dressing them up in uniform. But maybe we need some voices advising parents to help to develop the child throughout their lifetime. And that might help them to perform better on sports day. We seem to put the emphasis on sports day. A lot of passion on sports day. I would love to see the day when we have more clubs in our country so that children after school who would have done well could continue in the field of sports. I was responding to one of my brothers speaking about the Atlantic Ocean on Facebook. He has a passion for it. He goes there and swim all the time. But how many swim clubs we have in Grenada? I'm very disappointed in the Ministry of Sports. I believe the Ministry of Sports could do more. I'm well aware that the teachers from time to time would have issues and boycott activities that they consider they don't responsible for, even if they has been doing it for 100 years. They are not bound by tradition. It's not only in Grenada, in Trinidad. The teachers' union was advising teachers not to interfere in conflicts in schools. I thought that was stretching it extremely far, because more than 90% of conflicts die because of the presence of adults. More than 90% of conflicts in schools die because of the intervention or the presence of adult or other macho students. We had incidents in Guyana a few years ago where some altercation took place between a student and a teacher. And government wanted the child to go to another school. And the teachers were still protesting. Right today in Guyana, there are other contention with teachers and children. We had our share in Grenada when the teachers was on walk to rule. It's good to see that they take back interest in sports. I was well pleased a couple hours ago, several hours ago, a day, when I saw a number of children marching. It was a Sunday morning. They dress up in brown, I think it's brownies, and guides. A lot of them, more than 100 in number. Very excited. And the parents on the road chanting them on, encouraging them on. It was something for the girls alone. Brownies and guys. Now, if we don't seriously look at the productivity in our school and the socialization of our children, we're going to have war. We're going to have a lot of conflicts between villages. If the school don't lead, if the teachers in the school don't lead in developing community groups, we're going to pay with we belly, according to T.U.C. Kawana. You just have to look at the system in Jamaica and Trinidad. And I always blame the government, the authorities that be, for the level of violence in Jamaica and Trinidad. But a lot of the Caribbean countries are following suit. We are very fortunate in Grenada that our conflicts doesn't end in bloodshed and death. But we must be mindful of the fact that we had serious catastrophic conflicts in Grenada. Conflicts that required the British to send on battleship. Conflicts that the Americans felt they were justified to invade or intervene or rescue us, depending on which side of the pendulum you are on. So our schools must understand that the job is more than the job. That I don't know what you mean by work to rule. And you must have more groups in the community. And it must start from the schools. We must have more swim groups in the community. We are a small island, 30 minutes walk from the nearest, the farthest point as the crow flies to the sea. We have a fair amount of rivers, more fortunate than Barbados, Antigua, Bermuda, St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a fair amount of rivers. 80% of our people cannot swim. So our young men and women have a lot of energy. And the authorities that be and other stakeholders that are concerned should help to redirect energy. Youth. Everybody like to make a lot of noise about youth. And I think that we are having a line of demarcation. We emphasizing the line of demarcation between youth and the elderly. The United Nations describe youth as between 15 and 24 years. But other countries varies, 15 and 35. But we have some old youth in this country. And sometimes we give the impression that a deliberate attempt is being made in Grenada to leave out the youth. I think this is farthest from the truth. Today, St. Patrick's and many people in Grenada are mourning the death of Winston White. Winston White came into politics because he was identified by the politician because of his talents, because of his energy, because of his personality. And Winston White was a young person. He used to go to Guyana and Trinidad and debate. And he was one of the point people that the government sent to represent Grenada in other political parties' session. He had the gift of speech, a good command of the English language. He could speak. People say he had the garb, could speak very well. Winston White. Walter Rodney was in his 20s when he had his PhD. Eric Gary was about 27 years when he entered politics. I think Keith Mitchell was 24 when he ran the first time. Today we seem to be emphasizing the line of demarcation between youth and the elderly. And we have some old youth, some people who are old males and old females and claiming they are youth. One of the best age to start childbearing is between 16 and 25. 16 and 25. If you reach 35 years and you're having your first child, sometimes you have to walk with a cold chisel and a hammer. First child at 35. You more of a medical risk. You don't have to believe me. Ask a doctor or nurse. So I believe between 16 and 25 is the best time to start. Some people are 40 years still talking about they want to make children. Yes, you could make children all 50 if you had children before. But if you're making a first child, you become a medical risk. In the same way, when you cross 40, your testosterone levels start to drop. Your HB start to move from 17 and 16 and 15 downwards. So some people 45 and 46 who claiming you are youth, you are old male. If you was an animal, they'll remove you from the breeding stock. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hi, Mr. Pierre, good day, you're right. Ladies are supposed to stop making children when they have 30 years. Bye-bye.
Yes, well, this is... No, you see, one of the challenges we have to be frank and fair and realistic. Now, if you want to have children, there is an age in which a woman is best to start to have children. I met her sister the last time, she's 35 years. She tell me she want to get something behind she name. She want to have a master's. Well, how long you will take to get this master's? About 3-4 years. And when she come back, she want to have a child. I say, well, something is wrong with you. Because by the time you come back, you'll be a medical risk. And you have to get a man with money or a man that don't have understanding to want to have a child with you at that age. So we must know the facts. People must know the age of consent is Grenada is 16. So don't go and get involved with no 16-year-old. Make sure she has something. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. And she can tell you yes. Even though she tell you yes, 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 that is illegal. But the best age to start to have children is between that and 30, 35 years. When you reach 35 years and you didn't have a child yet, particularly if you are on family planning, you have to get a sledgehammer and a cold chisel, or you become a medical risk. Now, if you want family planning for extended period of time, after you stop take family planning, you have to have a window of when you do not get pregnant. Otherwise, you could make stillbirths, a deformed children, a complication. And we must know that. So you find a lot of people 35, 36, 37 years. And at that time, they're desperate. They want to have a child for the first time. And sometimes they have to spend all their life on bed rest. complications. You have some men over 42, they're playing young. Look, I always say to people, don't believe me when I speak. Do your own little research in your community. You're not doing research to write a thesis. You're not doing research to present a paper. You're doing research to have the courage of your own conviction and to understand if there is truth in what people say. So look around you in the community and notice the age of the men who have children. And even the men who have plenty of children. By the time they reach 40, or around 40, 45, they would already have their last child. So you 39 years, you don't have a dog, you don't have a cat, you don't plant a cherry tree, you don't even have a woman yet. You don't walk in. You don't have a passport. You say you want to make children. Or when you going to make children again? Your testosterone levels start to drop. Your HB start to drop. Instead of 16, 15 to 17, you're going down as if it's a woman blood. We have to be realistic. Mother Nature make you in a certain way. That does not mean a man cannot be 80 and 90 and have children. Or you have all the powers. But that is the general rule. So we have a number of people in Grenada. Youth. This is all youth. Between 15 to 24, the United Nations considered as youth. And youth is the period between childhood and adulthood. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
And good afternoon to Grenada. Mr. Pierre, my first daughter would be about 47 now, and she have 2 children. And both of them have leave school now and are working employed already.
What was your age when you make your last child?
I can't remember the age of the last son, but my first child was about 26.
And your last child was in your 40s or 30s?
Yeah.
So when a man have 40, 45 years doing as if he is youth, he's an old male.
And I'm proud of that I have two grand. Well, I have 4 grand already. So.
But you have to encourage them to make more because you need more grand.
Well, I don't really want more grand, you know.
Yeah, well, no.
Because I don't have nothing much to give them.
Well, you don't have to give them, you could pray for them. You don't have to give grand nothing.
I pray for all of them. Yeah. But, Mr. P, I'm concerned that I'm not hearing plenty or enough about the unions in those things happening. For instance, this matter with the young persons that government said that they made a mistake in avoidable.
They are not represented by unions.
Yeah, but the union could speak.
Yes, but in all fairness,
they don't have to be represented. The union represent mass of workers in the state.
The unions.
And when things like that happen, the union must show their solidarity.
We can't leave. We have to be realistic. On May Day, one of the unions was calling for public workers members to be fired.
Yeah, but that was ignorance.
The public workers union themselves, you didn't hear outcry from them. You have to understand, the unions don't represent the workers in the lower income group like that. The Imani workers, workers on contract, caregivers, road workers, the union do not represent them. So the union under no obligation to concern or open their mouth about them.
Well, it's sad. We're sad.
And remember, the unions support the government policy.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. If you support the government policy and you see things are going wrong with the government policy, you must be bold enough to speak out.
They believe
not because you support the government policy, you're going to just grab onto everything that the government. When the government is not towing the line properly, you have a right
Well, the unions have never supported the Imani program. The unions have never. In fact, they believe it's a waste of money. They believe it's handout you're giving them. They never support the Imani program. So don't expect the union now. Even the union own members were thrown out after 15, 16, 19 years service. They were thrown out, and the union didn't grumble.
Because I mean, when you listen to the voice of the Prime Minister and the present Minister of Finance, backing and clamoring out for the same young Imanis, and now today you snap them in the back, I think is not the best way to go.
But you know, historically, the NDC never liked the Imani program. And you know, historically, they have always tried to disadvantage and trick this group. And the unions have never raised support for Imani program before. And the unions still don't like them.
Yeah, but I will hope that they change their mind, because I mean,
I think you could sit down there. That part on a green donkey, you mightn't see. The union don't care about that.
You know, the more people that is being employed and the more young people that is being employed, I think is a plus to the union.
The union don't care about that.
You should think of that. And the last is, I listened over the weekend to Mr. Redhead giving some ideas why he now decided to go and study.
He tell us what is the content of the gracious hand.
No, he didn't tell us that, but he talked about why he decided to go and study at this point in time. And I don't tend to follow and believe in what he's saying at all, because he said that, you know, he wants to make sure that he's at the top level and have, you know, a full education. I agree with him there. But I mean, for you to leave off, he doesn't know how long the studies will take, because he said the studies could take 3 years. And he have not started the studies yet. But you still want to represent the people.
But you know that a bag of stupidness.
So I don't understand why you
what is there to understand?
To the people.
The man lying. What is there to understand? It's a bag of stupidness. He's lying.
Yeah,
when he went to the constituency, did he tell them he don't have enough education and he go and study? He lied.
Sometimes he didn't remember.
What took place is the Prime Minister wanted to remove him, because after he caused to break down the issues with the bus shed. It appears that the people he was dealing with is some poor people. And there was also rumored that some of the members are the legal representation of these people. So the people must be ordered to throw him out. And he decided not going. So the Prime Minister had to offer him a gracious offer. And he said he was given a gracious offer.
Yeah, but the Prime Minister also said that if you want him back, he'll take him back.
You see how the Prime Minister smiled when he said that?
So anything could happen. The Prime Minister could want him back now, and then later
the Prime Minister, the guy refused, and we won't have to give him that. He negotiated well. That is the reason some people believe that they couldn't call the press, until they wasn't certain what he would do or what he would say. So they didn't get the press. They did this thing in secret. But it is rumored on the ground that they had to give him 100,000. So I would have liked to hear him say what was involved in the gracious offer.
Well, it must be in the process. Passy and ain't get it yet.
Well, eventually,
because the acting Prime Minister told us that the money that they're supposed to get for the constituency is still in the process. Okay. The Parliament is in the hands of the Parliament still, so they didn't get it yet. So that could be in the process too.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Cop. And I always say, the young people in Grenada, you must Google Walter Rodney. When you hear you talking about young people now and fighting to see how you could get some old youths to be youth. Walter Rodney from Guyana, They ban him in most of the Caribbean countries. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
Mr. Pierre, today I would like to express my condolences to the family of Winston White. I know Winston was one of the last 3 members of the first parliament, the first cabinet after independence. And yesterday was the birth of Sir Eric Matthew Gary. That was his anniversary.
18th.
Yes, 18 February. So we lost the first minister of sport on that day. We lost the 6th prime minister, Mr. George Brizan, also on that day. So they both died on the anniversary of Sir Eric Matthew Gary. However, significantly today, Mr. Pierre, was the first day of the first industrial strike taken in Grenada. The Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union, led by its President General Eric Matthew Gary, called the first national strike in Grenada. And what is very significant about that strike, it was the most defranchised people in our country. The laborers on the estate, the travel workers that work on the road repair and road cleaning, and the scavengers. These people were the most disfranchised people in Grenada. And so on February 19th, 1951, they took to the streets of St. George to fight for social and economic justice. That was the turning point. When you're talking about, when one speaks about the turning point and the transition of Grenada, that day, a very significant day in the transformation of our country. As a result of that strike, the British government sent in 2 battleships to crush that uprising, as they would call it, the social revolution. But that brought benefits to that working class. The time of work was established. Severance pay, holiday pay came as a result of that action taken by the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union. And I just think that it is significant that we remember today in our history as the first day of the first industrial action was taken by any union in Grenada. And the unions in Grenada today owe a debt of gratitude to Eric Matthew Gary for taking such a stance. Have a good evening, Mr. Pierre.
And you don't think the unions don't care about that, you know?
I realize that.
The unions never care about the struggles of Eric Gary. The unions always believe they're hyperlutin. They're in a new social order. They never see themselves as fighting for the people in the lower income group.
Well, you see, but these are the people, and if you understand, and I always look at it. And these people fought from 1951 to adult suffrage, and then to get independence for Grenada. The same group of people who stood in the column of Eric Matthew Gary, because the plantocracy, the intelligentsia, never supported Eric Matthew Gary and independence. They fought if the unions, the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union, the Technical and Allied Workers Union, and especially the Technical and Allied Workers Union made certain that there was no electricity in Grenada for the hoisting of the flag for independence, They make sure about that. The Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union shut down the port, so no import goods or no export could have left this country. The unions fought against one of their own, the political maestro, the union leader. Because, for instance, let's look at Mr. Pierre. The Grenada Union of Teachers was established in 1913, 9 years before the birth of Eric Matthew Gary. The teachers were under deplorable conditions, and they never really had at no point in time did they strike or took any industrial action against the plantocracy and against the British status quo. 9 years after the Grenada Union of Teachers, Eric Matthew Gary was born. I'm talking about youth man. We're talking about youth man in leader.
He was 26 or 27 when he entered the politics.
He was born in 1922.
22.
So he started union when he was 27, and at 29 he called the first strike. So that was a youth man who stood up for the marginalized. And something I really, when you look back and you look at the anthem of Eric Matthew Gary, will never let our leader fall. And they sang at the ending of the strike, our flag shall rise. And therefore, the flag rose on the 7th of February, That's when the flag rose, because they say our flag shall rise at the ending of the strike. And independence was the end of the strike. And that was a chapter in the history of Eric Matthew Gary. And today, political parties in Grenada also owe a debt of gratitude to Eric Matthew Gary, because it was the union, the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union, who started political party in Grenada. So the Grenada United Labour Party is the child of the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union. No other union in Grenada, despite how powerful they think they are, despite their membership, they never attempted to create a political party from the union, organize a political party from the union. No other union in Grenada organized a political party. Dr. John Watts organized the GNP. And after the defeat of Howard Blaze in Carriacou in 1954, he then joined the Grenada National Party, and then he was made leader of the Grenada National Party. The plantocracy and the intelligentsia didn't want Howard Blaze as a leader, so they formed the PDM, People Democratic Movement. Carl Noel, LCJ Thomas, L.A. Postle, Bowman Campbell said they didn't want Howard Blaze to be the leader, so they formed another political organization. And so, from the GLP, other political parties were formed. So all political parties in Grenada today owe a debt of gratitude to Eric Matthew Gary for starting political parties in Grenada. And the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union, the spirit of Eric Matthew Gary and Gascoigne Blaise. Gascoigne Blaise was the first union leader to be locked up in Grenada. He was the general secretary of the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union. So he was locked up for the protest. And when Gary went to the station to see what was happening with Blaise, he too was arrested, put on the HMS Devonshire, one of the battleships that came to Grenada, and then he was exiled in Carriacou. That was the beginning of the fiasco of the revolution of 1951.
Yeah. You see, it's so easy for our people to beat their chest and forget the struggles that of our forefathers before. Yeah.
So I want us to remember this day, the struggle of the union and the man who had the intestinal fortitude. You're talking about guts and belly? That is a man who had guts and belly. Fought against the colonial masters and 2 battleships coming in Grenada to crush the movement of Eric Matthew Gary. Agatha Fraser, Snell Fraser, John Duncan, and Eric Matthew lost their lives in that struggle.
Was 6 of them?
4.
4 of them.
3 in Latant and 1 in Bodrove.
In Latant, yeah.
Yeah, Agatha Fraser, Snell Fraser, and John Duncan. in Latant and Eric Matthew in Budge Grove.
At that time, we had the St. Lucian police on here too?
Yes, they came after to support, because you see, when the Devonshire came in, that was insufficient to support with the support from the Grenada Police Force. So we had some St. Lucian coming in, and then they sent the HMS Snipe from Trinidad, because that was just after World War II, and they was building the Americans was building a base in Trinidad, and the British also had interest there. So they had the HMS Snipe was also harbored in Trinidad. So it came to Grenada on the 21st of February 1951. And so you had Marines from the HMS Devonshire, Marines from the HMS Snipe, and St. Lucian Police joined with the Grenada Police Force to take down or to crush that social revolution when the poor and ordinary people of this country was fighting for social and economic justice.
Yes, my brother, I think our people have to prepare to work with the history, And if they don't prepare to work with it, then you're going to have a repeat of some of the injustice that is taking place against people in the lower income group.
And then we must ask ourselves the question, is this same marginalized group being taken advantage on today? I close my case.
Yes, my brother, there are a number of incidents where we have to convince that is the same marginalized group. The government treatment of the Imani, the government treatment of the elderly. And when I say elderly in the lower income group.
Yeah.
The government treatment of the physically challenged. The NIS treatment of people who are sick. The NIS say you have to have a cell phone in your name to get your sick benefit.
But NIS also have to understand that under Gary you had a providence fund who would have provided for that grouping, and that money helped to start the NIS.
And they treat the people in the provident fund so bad. Some of them never get nothing. It's a sad story.
What a pity. What a pity that up till today, that same group of people is on top.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, scholar, thank you. The same group of people. Yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
The device in the back, you have to switch it off. Load on or switch off the device in the back. We know that people want to.
Yeah, I'll call back.
Okay, thank you very much. The NIS today. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
Based on what it was said, are we still expecting the unions to sit back there and look at these young people lose $500?
The unions don't represent these people.
Nobody union have a voice.
The union don't care about that. The union have always fight the GMMIWU, the Grenada Maritime Mental Workers Union, and people in the lower income group. The union represent the workers they believe are the high end of the scale workers. There are some people who pay union dues, but they don't even consider them as members. Those union executives believe they're in a different class. They don't care about this group of workers.
I'm waiting to see at the ending of this month if we wouldn't hear one of the unions.
Caller, you're a little bit naive, If you expect this union to look after these people, you're very naive.
No, I really want to see if that wouldn't happen.
Well,
you wouldn't hear the voice of union leaders coming out.
Well, wait to go see inside Ant's belly. The union historically don't care about these people. On and off, you had individual union leaders that take some interest in the voiceless, Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, good day.
Yes, ma'am, good.
How are you?
Great, man.
Something I find strange. The guy, Mr. Anthony Georgia, designed the flag. Huh? He passed away about a week ago. And I find his name is not being mentioned, and he's a very important person to Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Manin. So I don't find his name being mentioned at all. I don't find.
You have to understand that
it's like nothing no going on.
this government principally wanted to put focus on Maurice Bishop, their role, and the Caribbean roundabout. That was the three things they wanted to put focus on. Because of our people championing other cause, they try to entertain other things. But don't expect them to, the emphasis is not on that.
The man that designed the fan, the man passed away. No mention about this gentleman.
Well, it's one story in.
He
gone, Winston White gone.
Yes. And all of them go around the same time.
Yeah, but you have to understand that this government interest is not in that area. So you might want them to do it, but it's difficult for them. Very difficult for them because they have no interest in that.
This is the people that know about independent Winston White. This and Mr.
So
John.
we have to speak about it.
And
we have to speak about it.
No, Mr. John name is hardly been mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, caller. Yes, the NIS, I believe, is doing great injustice. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre?
Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Great, man.
All right. Listen, the only time Grenada has trade unions is when Dr. Tick Mitchell is in power, That's the only time we have trade union in Grenada. Because I remember in 2022 or 23, they was on go slow and all kind of other stupidness. But now everything happening and you hear union saying one thing. You're only talking a pile of nonsense. However, the next point I want to make, Ron Redhead should never be on radio speaking and saying that he want to study and he should be studying how much jail he will be making in a short while for all the offenses that he commit in the country. Have a nice day, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, scholar. Thank you. No, I'm saying it for what is what. The National Insurance Scheme is doing injustice to some people, particularly people that work in the informal sector, the construction industry, the agriculture sector. Now, let me put it as simply as I can put it. These people took sick leave, but because they don't have a cell phone and they don't have an email address, the NIS hold up the sick leave payment. And there are cases, by the time they get it, the time pass. And some of them decide, well, why go and buy a phone for $600 for $150? So the National Insurance Scheme is behaving like bandits. I always tell people, when you hear a man thief a blogger, you bring him in court, and rightly so, because he has no right to thief. But these organizations are really behaving like criminal organizations. I ask the question, is NIS an agent of the telephone companies, the cell phone companies? Why must it be necessary for somebody to have a phone in their name, a cell phone in their name, for them to be able to get the sick leave benefit? I don't know if that's going on in the United States of America. So somebody from the diaspora could ask that. Why is it necessary? even if Grenada decide to change their modus operandi, they gone full technology. There must be a transition period when you get people to understand that. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre?
Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, good afternoon.
Yes, brother.
Brother,
Yes.
people say that Ronald Reagan he should be in jail. What the man do? The man do nothing, my brother. Who do all the things? Who take money and pay this and that? They take over $20 million and they squander it. They're in jail. But the poor man, you put him in jail.
You remember, caller? You remember Ron say that some people supposed to be in jail?
Yes, he said that.
Well, I think people just reacting back to him now.
You don't lie. You don't lie.
Do you know what was the contents of the gracious offer?
Mr. Pierre, the former Prime Minister, he and the Bog, they take millions and millions.
You see again, caller, financially embarrassed. Caller, are suffering from monetary instability and are financially embarrassed. Don't put me in trouble. You cannot say these things because you have absolutely no proof for it.
Why pay back somebody money?
The government pay back money? The former Prime Minister pay back money?
And they pay.
Caller.
The government has
Caller. You got to be careful what we say. You can't do that. You know? I know you lose about $3,000 and I know it is. But a lot of people lost money in SGL. They lost money with the Debug Bank. And the British American millions of dollars. Grenadian must lose about $800-900 million. NIS lose money too. And some of the unions lost money. And a lot of Grenadians lost money. Not in Grenada alone, the British American, I think is Clico, and British American together, the Grenada must lose over $400 million on that. And then SGL, millions of dollars at lost. Sometimes the interest they offer you, if it is too good to be true, you ought not to risk in it. But some people like risk. So that was a challenge. I think Ron himself that introduced who you go put in jail. So now people saying they're paying him back with his own coins. And that's one of the challenges the NDC have. The NDC is the most disrespectful party in the country. They disrespect everybody. They say one among the outrageous and objectionable things about everybody. And now in their turn, people is going to go after them. And one have to be happy that a lot of the radio personalities have not been encouraging or entertaining undue attacks on the National Democratic Congress. It's not that they don't deserve it, but we're concerned about the country. If it makes no sense in objecting to what they do, if you decide to do what they do, it's the NDC that call people classless, and beggy, nasty people, greedy and needy, traitors. All these objectionable words come from high-ranking members of the National Democratic Congress and the mouthpieces and the politicos. It's the NDC that said the church sucking the anus of a political party. All these objectionable language came from the NDC. And the Prime Minister himself continued with it by calling people beggy. Today is a significant period, and perhaps as we come down to the close, we must remember the death of Winston White, and we extend our sympathy to his family. Winston White was a very young person when he entered the politics in Grenada. I've had a very good command of the English language, and he interacted very well with the ordinary man, Winston White. And today, the 19th, as the brother said, that's when the first strike that started the first social revolution in Grenada, that the people in the lower income group, the estate workers, travel, scavengers, that is when they call a national strike. On the 19th of February, and the British sent on 2 battleships in Grenada. The HMS Devonshire that was in St. Lucia, and the HMS Knight from Trinidad came down in Grenada to help to quell or to smother this struggle. They were not successful. Gaston Blaise's name must never be forgotten. He was sent to prison. He was in prison in Grenada. And then Eric Gary went to find out when he was arrested. And Eric Gary was arrested and placed on the battleship. And people went on. The people in the lower income group continued the struggle. We must never forget those days in history. Because if we forget the history, we doom for a repeat. That is why NIS start taking advantage on people. That is why this present government is taking advantage on people in the lower income group. Even children, disadvantaged children, the government remove money from disadvantaged children. And they give it to those who could pay. They prepare to give money to who could pay and take it from those who struggling to pay bus to go to school. These are some of the challenges we have in our country, and we must know them, and we must prepare to discuss them. We can't walk away from it. If you do, we will be doomed to fail. Always remember, it's our own people, because we forget our history. We have a repeat of the same hostile action by the government today. The government ought not to be hostile against people in the lower income group, the less fortunate, the marginalized, the imani, the caregivers, the elderly, the physically challenged and disadvantaged children. And we want to thank you for being with us today. We're back with you tomorrow between 12 and 1 for another opportunity at On Target.